Today we're going to learn how to create a poster that celebrates the teachers of the New York City Lab School. We're going to talk about a few things, among them the rule of thirds. We're going to talk about color scheme design, or RGB values, contiguous versus non-contiguous. I'm going to teach you guys how to change the color of the very own NYC Lab logo and talk about briefly gradients in the background. So here's an image featuring Mr. Sprinkle, and we can see that there's a lot going on. This represents who he is, his passions, and what he brings to our community. So where do we start? The first thing we're going to talk about is the rule of thirds, which is a photography technique that is used to make images significantly more dynamic. So what you're going to want to do when you set up your image is imagine that there's a sort of tic-tac-toe, two sets of vertical and horizontal lines, and at this intersection right here is what we're going to call our little power points, and that should be where the most salient or relevant or important thing that we want to highlight in our image. For example, this dude right here we see his head right along the line of this intersection. Eyes typically are the most important part. When we look, for example, right here, we see the horizon sort of cutting across in the horizontal intersection and her face along this intersection. You're going to experiment with rule of thirds. It takes a little bit of practice. Next, we need to talk about color schemes. So here I see we've got red, green, and blue primarily, right? I did not choose these colors arbitrarily. Instead, I used a pretty amazing website by selecting Mr. Sprinkle, the red from Mr. Sprinkle's collar. I'm going to talk to you about that in just a minute. Okay, so here we have Mr. Sprinkle. What I did was I used the Eyedropper Tool, and when I'm looking at this PNG, this cutout, clearly the color that jumps out the most is probably this red, right? So when you select the red, this is going to give us an RGB value. We're going to come back to that in a second. Here is the Color Scheme Designer website. We've got a number of options. If we click on complement and we drag this cursor around this spectrum, we can see that we've got complementary colors. So orange and red, orange and blue are sort of diametrically opposite. Here we've got green and red, purple, and this sort of lime green. We're going to be using the tetrad today. And we're going to figure out specifically what colors we need to use because there's a science to our color scheme. So we selected the collar a moment ago, right? So what I'm going to do now is double click on the foreground color in our toolbox. And when you click on it, lots of information comes up, this color picker, but also this RGB value in the bottom. It says E92D21. We're going to highlight that. We're going to copy and paste that. We're going to go back to this website, and at the bottom I can see that when you click on where it says RGB, if you click right there, we can highlight and paste, Command V to paste. Let's press OK, and there are our colors. So it identified specifically that color from like millions of shades of color across the spectrum, and we're going to use this first box, the third, and the fourth. We're not really going to touch the second two. What I'm going to do right now is take a screenshot of this by pressing print screen. We can go back to Photoshop and you can see that I've already got our screenshot right there. So this is going to be kind of like, we're going to be referencing this throughout the course of this project. So I set Mr. Sprinkle up, applying the rule of thirds. I can see that his eyes are right along this intersection. So if I created, let's go like this. If we imagine that there's two horizontal lines, we can see, of course, that his eyes, his face is right there along this sort of PowerPoint, this dynamic component. What we're going to do today is we're going to align our teachers along that axis. We're going to then identify the color. For example, if we're looking at Miss Jackson, we can see that we've got the red and this sort of purple along her dress. If we select this purple, as I am right now, we're going to go in, grab this RGB color. We're going to press Command C. We're going to go back into Color Scheme Designer. We're going to paste that in. It's going to identify the pink, and we're going to be using, all right, these four colors, primarily the first, the third, and the fourth. All right, so the next step, we're going to be creating a changing the color of the NYC Lab logo. So we'll do Mr. Brown. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set up a blank. Okay. Okay. Here we've got a blank. I'm going to set up Mr. Brown right along the rule of thirds. I'm going to make him a little bit bigger so he's featured a little bit more prominently. That looks great right there. Okay, great. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to use the eyedropper tool. I'm going to click right there. I'm going to select this blue, and we're going to change this NYC Lab logo to blue. So how do we do that? I'm going to use the magic wand, and right now contiguous is checked. So if I click contiguous and I press Command Shift N and create a new layer, what I know is that if we use the paint bucket, we could fill it. But what I notice that the interiors of the B, the O, and this perimeter line have not had their colors changed. What we're going to do is I'm going to undo that. I'm going to press Command D to deselect. I'm going to go to the original background layer. I'm going to select the magic wand, and I'm going to uncheck contiguous. So contiguous means touching. When I uncheck it and I now select the green, all the green in this image is selected. So I can now use the paint bucket. I can see that it's all highlighted. I'm going to press Command D to deselect. I'm now going to press Command A, Command Shift C, and what that does is that copies all layers, and I'm going to press Command V, and I can now see that we've got a logo that matches Mr. Brown's shirt. Great. That looks good right there. We might adjust the size a little bit. Next step is to add a little bit of a background. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to change the paint bucket to gradient. I'm going to go to, let's grab the RGB color. I'm going to highlight that number. I'm going to press Command C. I'm going to go to this website, Color Scheme Designer. I'm going to Command V to paste it in. And there I see we've got his shirt color, right? And then in the third and the fourth blocks, we've got colors that are sort of complementary, that are opposite on the spectrum. And these look great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bottom of this image right here. Actually, I'm going to press Print Screen. I'm going to go to Photoshop. I'm going to go to File, New. Press Command V. I'm going to press C. I'm going to crop all of this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab two colors. I'm going to use the Eyedropper Tool. I'm going to grab this light color, and I'm going to switch the foreground and the background by clicking these arrows by the foreground and background. I'm going to now select this, and now I see that we've got this nice contrast. I'm going to create a new layer above the background but beneath the logo on Mr. Brown. I'm going to select the gradient tool, and we've got a number of different gradients. I'm going to select the initial one so we see foreground to background, and I'm going to change it from linear to the second one. If we highlight it, it says radial, I believe. And I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. And that looks kind of cool. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to switch the foreground and the background, and let's see what happens when we go like this. That looks pretty awesome. That looks great. That looks really, really good right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that should be it for today. If you have any questions, please let me know. Good luck.